Arielle Scarcella. Her name is very weird to spell, and I don't like it. But her channel, Women, Culture, Conversation. No, a lot of it is just fucking Coomer baiting. Lesbian fingering, best sex toy review, the future of lesbian sex, no more top or bottom, penis in vagina, is lesbian sex, bigot, lesbian moms and their open sex life. There's a lot of sex on here, and she's like this lady that like, oh, I left the left because it was crazy and all that. There's a lot of sex stuff, and there's also like weird conservative, I guess she's kind of like a conservative token, I don't know, for like lesbians. She's weird. Anyways, I want to I want to watch the two genders, men and the rest video. I want to watch this video.
Yes, the two genders, men and the rest. I've spoken about sex-segregated spaces in the past and why they exist, and how they are very different than gender-segregated or social.
Is the volume okay? Yeah, she's like lesbian Dave Rubin, basically. Yeah, is volume okay? Tell me if volume is okay. Before we continue, is volume okay?
Segregated spaces. And I know that this bathroom trend isn't the only men and the rest type of stuff that's going around. I've spoken about sex-segregated spaces in the past and why they exist, and how they are very different than gender-segregated or social segregated spaces. Reminder, sex-segregated spaces usually, if not always, exist for safety reasons. Sports, males and females are separate usually because of safety reasons. Bathrooms, also for safety reasons. And if this is the case, shouldn't this be women and the rest and not men and the rest? Because 99.9% of the time, men are the ones that are the abused.
Hold on. It's a safety risk? You're saying that trans men and women should go in the other bathroom? Like, oh, what? Hold on. Gotta process this. She is saying that she's basically saying trans women should go in the men's restroom because safety, and trans men should go into the women's bathroom because safety, like safety concerns, and trans women should not be allowed in women's sports because safety. I don't fucking know. If you're a trans girl and you go into like a men's restroom, there's a good chance you're probably gonna get harassed. Just saying. Like, I don't know, this lady isn't trans and she's talking on this issue, and it's very weird. I mean, cis people can talk about trans issues, but like this is just this is really weird. Young women are especially at risk. 82% of all juvenile victims are female. 90% of adult rape victims are female. Yeah, this is true. Women and females tend to be the victims of sexual assault a lot more. This isn't really relevant. Another thing that I think is like kind of relevant is that people who are racist often bring up like the 1350 statistic where it's like, oh, despite making only 13% of the population, black people commit 50% of the crime, right? And so that's why we should be racist and do racial profiling and be bigoted towards black people in the criminal justice system. But you could extend these statistics to just like men and males. They commit like 90% of the crime. I mean, in the case of rape, like 90%, I think. Yeah, I have to get the statistics. I'm going to show the statistics. More than 73% of those arrested in the U.S. were males. Men accounted for 80.4% of the persons arrested for violent crime and 62.9% of those arrested for property crime. men commit more crime. Men and males, like these people just commit more crime, and so we're just gonna have to like sexually or gender profile. I don't know. People have this weird double standard where it's like, yeah, we'll go harder in like black areas, but like we won't do anything about men, which are statistically even more yikesy, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to talk about. I'm trying to be sensitive to it, but it's just weird.
Users. The Freedom of Information Act just found that under 90% of complaints regarding changing room sexual assaults, voyeurism, and harassment are about incidents in mixed-sex facilities. And it may be assumed that the same apply to mixed-sex toilets. So are feminists the issue in this, or is it men, biological males? Rose said this on Twitter. Nice for the guys to get a safe space, yet all evidence shows
Hold on. What? Are there sources? Okay, I think these are sources. Women do get away with a lot more crime than men.
That needs it. Not to say that they are never at risk, of course they are, but in these cases, not so much, right? I think we can all agree on that. My question is, why is it always women that have to give up their, not even safe space as in like social justice, in my safe space, you know, you guys know I don't like those kind of things, but why is it women that always have to give up their sex-based spaces? Why couldn't both be unisex? Biological women and feminism aren't the people that are killing trans people or degrading trans people. 99% of the time, again, that would be biological males that identify as men and live their lives as men. This might be a little bit of a stretch here, but isn't this kind of similar to, instead of teaching women how to not get raped, we teach men to not rape? What I mean is, instead of expecting biological women to protect everybody, including themselves, how about we teach biological men how to not be dicks to somebody that looks different than them?
I don't know. Her phrasing is really weird. But like the social justice system or the criminal justice system is also very biased in favor of women. And it's really weird. Like, men are held to a very high standard that women are not. I mean, to these people, you can't really reform people. They don't believe in reformative justice. They don't believe in that sort of school of thinking. They believe in more of a punitive system where the way to deter crime is to have harsher punishment, right? And so people who are conservative and more right-leaning, they typically tend to believe that if you have harsher punishments for, you know, just in general, if you have harsh punishments, it'll make people want to commit less crime. Men have, you know, the justice system is very much against men as opposed to women. Men will get sentenced to jail for a lot longer than women for doing the same thing. And that's because of how society perceives men and how we think about them as like predatory or whatever. And like, I mean, what is Arielle suggesting that we do? Because right now we're kind of punishing men a lot in the justice system, and I think it's to a degree that's it's a little far sometimes. In some cases, it's a little far, but like, what, should we just have better education? I don't know. Let's keep watching.
Than them. Of course, this isn't the only time that we experience the two true genders, being men and, well, the rest. For example, did you know that most medical clinical trials are done only on men? Neither did I. This article from The Guardian says, the medical research gap, how excluding women from clinical trials is hurting our health. For several reasons, female subjects have historically been excluded from toxicology or biomedical research. While progress has been made since 1993, when the National Institutes of Health mandated that women and minorities also be included in any government-funded health research, there's still a long way to go. According to this comment on that article, one of the reasons why a lot of women are excluded from clinical trials is that early-stage clinical trials are often started before the results of animal trials on fertility and embryo fetal effects. Basically, they don't know what effect it will have on a woman's fertility, and only recruiting infertile women would make the results irrelevant to fertile women, which, yeah, I get that makes sense, but it doesn't really fix the issue at hand, I guess. This is from another article. In more than 90% of cases, women experienced worse side effects. Overall, they were found to have more adverse drug reactions twice as often as men, and this is simply because they aren't included in the, like, again, clinical trials as often as men are. The good thing is that doctors and people involved in these clinical trials are aware of this and they're trying to fix it, so hopefully things will change ASAP. Lack of females in drug dose.
There's like not much here. I was expecting more. There's not. Like, okay, I guess these are women's issues.
Trials leads to over-medicated women. This article was actually written just last year, so don't think that all these articles from like 1990. This article was literally written last August. Gender gap leaves women experiencing adverse drug reactions nearly twice as often as men. TLDR of this article, women are more likely.
I don't like how she doesn't like show the actual source. Like, you just have to go through these. Okay. Like, you have to like pick and choose. We have this one. We have only 3. Okay. Like the thing that you put on screen, like, at least put where it's from. If we're gonna learn anything from this video, if you're gonna make videos that are like supposed to be educational and you put a source on the screen, please label like what this screenshot is from. Like, please. Yeah, I'm very confused. Like, what does this have to do with 2 genders? How many genders are there today? Spectrum, sexism, or biology? But like, this isn't what the video is even about. This is about how, you know, in some cases, women disproportionately are more negatively affected. Like, I'm very confused. I'm very, very confused. This just makes me think that she's like kind of a grifter. I don't know. Like, she's just like she's not that conservative, like, internally, but she's you know, making these clickbaity titles that are, you know, that conservative people would like, but then she's actually talking about, you know, real issues that women have. It's really weird. Like, the beginning, like, she mentions trans people, and she's like, yeah, sexual segregation's good because it's for safety. It helps protect people. And I'm like, what the fuck is that about? And then she's talking about just issues that women have in general, where, you know, these issues are disproportionately kind of caused by men. And I'm like, okay, I can't really disagree with you here. You're just basically reading some articles. But like, the actual content that was her actual like opinion, and not like the stuff from the articles, was very shit. Is there anything else in this video?
That happens in the next few months, please. Like, this has to be another video, clearly. I definitely want to make a video with the author of that book. Okay, until then, let's go to Twitter, because that's clearly the second place to get information. Okay, so Twitter. What are the 3 ways to recognize somebody that's woke on Twitter, right? Pronouns woke in the bio, hashtag don't interact, and if they tweet repetitive phrases, thinking that if you say them enough, it makes them true. Like this. The UN tweeted, "There's no wrong way to be a woman. There's no wrong way to be a woman. There's no wrong way to be a woman." I'm done saying that. Okay. The responses to this, by the way, are absolutely hilarious. I haven't checked for a few hours. How many genders are there now? I know, literally me every day. But this was the best response, in my opinion. This was from somebody that I follow, Jonathan K., who said, "How come they never do this with men?" And honestly, I get it.
I am so confused. You were just shitting on men, and now this person is being defensive for men, and now you're like, so true. Like, it's what do you? This is just weird. This is just so weird. How many genders are there now? Haha, many genders. I don't understand it, so it's a joke. Whoa. Repeating like these tweets where you repeat something a lot, I think that's kind of cringe. I would never personally do that. That there's a lot of weird internet trends that are kind of cringe. The statement's like, why? There's nothing wrong with this statement. There is no wrong way to be a woman. Like, what? And then, what does this have to do with other genders? Like, we're talking about one gender, woman, and that there's no wrong way. And she finds it funny that, how many genders are there? Like, she thinks that's actually funny.
I'm done saying that. Okay. The responses to this, by the way, are absolutely hilarious. I haven't checked for a few hours. How many genders are there now? I know, literally me every day. But this was the best response in my opinion. This was from somebody that I follow, Jonathan K, who said, how come they never do this with men? And honestly, I get it. Like, how often do you see major groups like the UN tweeting something like this about men? Somebody replied to that and said, I got challenged the other day for using MRA, men's rights activists, instead of TRA, trans rights activists. Am I the only one who thinks they're basically the same thing? This tweet gets me.
Oh my god.
I think that trans women are men. I think trans women are trans women. But it is curious.
Oh my god. Holy fuck. Okay, we found the juicy stuff. Yeah, so like she said, this person is saying that trans women are men, and that's obviously fucking transphobic. But then Scarcella says trans women are trans women, and yes, trans women are trans women, but they're women. Trans women are women. They're not like different from women. They're women. It's like if you have, a woman who's a person of color and you're pointing out that she's black. Like, oh, black women are black women. They're not women. Like, if we're talking about, like, what a black woman is, and we just say, they're just black women, they're not women. They're all women. White women, black women, trans women. It's all just an arbitrary trait. They all have the same thing in common. They're all women. These arbitrary differences are so irrelevant. But when you use that terminology, like when you're using the blank is women, whatever that blank is very important for the message that you're trying to signal. So if you say that, men are trans women, that's pretty blatant. That's pretty blatant transphobia. If you say, women are trans women, that's pretty good. And then in between, like sort of like a dog whistle, would be like, trans women are trans women. That kind of invalidates them a little bit, because it's saying that they're not women, they're something else. Like, if it was a black woman, you would say a black woman is just a woman. But if you say a black woman is a black woman, like, there's something else. Like, that's fucked up. That's kind of fucked up. You're, like, low-key signaling that they're not regular women, that there's something else. There's something separate, something unique. And that's kind of messed up. So, the blank before is very important. The word before that is very important. So that's a thing for you to learn if someone's like a TERF or a transphobe, or if they're just genuinely supportive. It's how they phrase and define like what a trans woman is.
Curious why so many progressives are fighting for the inclusion of trans women in biological women's spaces rather than trans men in biological men's spaces. I've barely seen anybody saying trans men belong in men's sports, trans men belong in men's sports. Like, I haven't seen that.
Well, they do. Yeah. I don't know why the attention is brought on trans women either. But it is for some reason. People think that it's always... we always have to talk about trans women because, cis women are in danger. Real women, in quotation marks, are in danger of the men that are like predatory and like endangering them and ruining, compromising their safety by being in these spaces. Like, whereas men are not vulnerable. They are strong, and a woman, a trans man, is just a woman to these people, and so they're not a threat. They're not a threat to these people. I think that being a TERF kind of, it's just a big hatred of men. Like, I think it's just a really big hatred of men, and that's why they're kind of like anti-trans women, and why they also don't focus much on trans men, because I think that they see trans women as men. They don't like men, and this is just how they respond. It's really cringe.
At all. And from what I understand, the trans men that do go and compete in biological male sports, they're at a significant disadvantage. Let's be honest.
Who the fuck calls it biological male sports? No, you go to school and it's the fucking boys basketball team. Or the girls volleyball team. It's not fucking biological girl softball. Like, what the fuck? Nobody fucking says that. Why do you have to, like, load your language like that? Because the reason why she has to load her language like that is because when you phrase it as a sex thing, the differences are more objective, whereas if it's a gender thing, which it is a gender thing, then it makes sense. It makes sense why you would allow someone who's trans to participate on the sports team that they want to. Whereas if you phrase it as a sex thing, you can hide the fact that we label sports in a gendered way. So that, I think that's kind of like a sneaky tactic I noticed there.
Testosterone policy will ever work.
Male to female athletes no longer need to have reassignment surgery, but they do need to demonstrate that their testosterone levels have been below 10 nanomole per litre for at least 1 year, according to the 2016 International Olympic Committee guidelines. In the case of female to male athletes, they can compete without restrictions.
Wait. Trans men are able to compete without restrictions. Wonder why? I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Men in sports will bitch and fight over the fact that a specific type of shoe or drinking coffee before a game might give somebody an advantage. Yet they have almost no issue with allowing trans women who have gone through male puberty or haven't even transitioned at all, including them in biological women's sports. So why are these people
No, I think you're kind of wrong about that. I feel like you're making that shit up. No, I think a lot of people in sports are kind of transphobic. Like, I think that the sports crowd is kind of bigoted. I'm just speaking anecdotally here, but I think the sports crowd is kind of fucking cringe and not very accepting. At least in my experience. I haven't seen any sports team that just fucking welcomes trans women. Like, it's always a super big deal. An example, I covered it on this channel, the Alliance Defending Freedom girl, where she's on the track team, and then there's like trans women who run faster than her, and then she complains about it, and it becomes this whole thing. Like, that's on my channel. You could watch that. It's an older thing, but like, it's there, and it's like every time there's a trans woman, like, people complain.
For us as well. Why are we allowing women to be the rest? To me, that's basically the same thing as saying whoever wasn't good enough to be put first, you know, like the rest. Like,
TERFs hate everyone and sports should be banned.
When girls try to object.
Yeah, just what I was talking about. I don't fucking miss. This fucking bitch on PragerU. She was on Alliance Defending Freedom and PragerU.
We point out the truth that biological differences in strength and speed between boys and girls are massive and real. We're called bigots. Administrators, teachers, coaches, and other students.
I went
tell
over
us
this video.
to keep quiet and take it.
Just for a second, I want you to imagine if trans men being included in men's sports meant the same thing as it does for trans women coming into women's sports. Imagine the shitstorm it would cause among biological male athletes, coaches, referees, team owners. I found this tweet and I thought it was the perfect note to end this video on. If you are offended by the thought of a women's only gym, or a women's only sports league, or a women's only whatever, you are the reason that they would be beneficial. Emily, preach. To me, wokeness is rooted in narcissism at its core. Entitlement and narcissism.
I cannot stand
to make
this bitch.
biological women the target. It's not easy to make biological men a target. To me, the woke brigade doesn't care about women. They care about being politically correct, which, you know, not a fan of. If you don't think the two...
This was a dumbass video. This was really fucking dumb.